Welcome to the Healing Circle. I'm Christine, founder of Embodied Energy Wellness, a shamanic energy practitioner and soul guide. This is a space for honest conversations about healing, awakening, and the moments that shape us. We all carry a story, and this is a place where those stories can be shared, witnessed, and gently healed, together in community. This isn't about fixing yourself, it's about remembering yourself. Take a deep breath. You're very welcome here. Just a gentle note before we begin, some topics discussed in this episode may touch on trauma, loss, or sensitive life experiences. Please take care of yourself as you listen and engage in a way that feels supportive.
This week we have Dani. She is the Wild Alchemist who has gone from her own parts of her lives in depression and mental health and illness to transforming into this beautiful swan. So let me hand you over to Dani.
Hi, Christine.
Hello, how are you? You look like a swan. You look elegant.
Do you know, I've been bed rotting sick for 4 days. So I did have to kind of put about 7 layers of foundation on, but I feel fab. So
No, you look fab. Doesn't matter.
Thank you.
It's typical, isn't it, in our spiritual journey? It doesn't matter what happened on the inside as long as you look good on the outside.
I actually enjoyed doing the makeup today. Like, I was real intentional about it. And I was like, I'm going to call in Aphrodite. I'm going to be glam. And I feel it.
I feel it. You're rocking it. You're rocking it.
Thank you.
So we were briefly just talking before we pressed record about your journey to your spiritual awakening and where it all began. So can you tell our listeners where, what has brought you to sitting here in front of me today?
I think mine starts before my spiritual awakening even began, or what I consider my spiritual awakening. I feel like my spiritual awakening was, probably tried to kick off in 2020, but I only really started allowing it in 2022, 2023.
Yeah.
But really, my early years are probably where the real beginning of it was. Do you know what I mean? I think in 2023, when I started my spiritual journey, I read about a lot of people's journeys being so full of light that there's a trauma that kicks it off, and it was the same as mine.
Yeah.
My best friend, who was like my mother figure, had terminal cancer and she passed away. And she was like my first ever experience, and my throat always catches when I talk about her because there's so much love there. But Louise was like the mother I never had.
Yeah.
She came into my life. She showed me that I was worthy of love like nobody ever had before. And then she passed away, and it was like that grief kicked open the door to spirit, source, the universe, however you want to see it. But because of my early years where I didn't have a foundation in, I'm estranged from both of my parents. They're down as egg donor and sperm donor on my phone. I've done years and years of therapy. Like, we're talking like I'm 34 now. I've been on and off in therapy since I was 4. I've done every type of therapy you can think of. I've done the medication. I've done all of it.
When were you estranged from your parents?
Well, my dad left when I was, like, my parents separated before I was 2, and the last time I saw him was right before my 5th birthday. I remember waiting for him to turn up to my 5th birthday, and he didn't. And, when you're a child, people don't necessarily explain things. So I've no memory of where he went, why he went, he was just gone.
Yeah.
And then my mum, we had a very difficult relationship our whole life. Very, very difficult. My brother is autistic in the way that he has high support needs. She's an amazing mom to him. She went to the High Court for his education, but I am like the personification of everything she doesn't deal with the better self. It all gets poured
we're
into
all
me.
our teachers to see a lot of mother-daughter relationships, even with my own mother and also with my 25-year-old daughter. Like, it is trigger city, and it's normally from the ancestral lineage, and it comes down the line, and it's every lifetime we are given an opportunity to heal that lineage, that trauma.
Exactly as you said that. So I do a lot of past life work, and I've done past life work on this, and we were enemies in the past life.
Yeah. 100%.
And in this life, we came back as mother and daughter to heal together. And I have really embodied that healing journey. My mom just can't. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at her in regards to me, and anyone who loves me would all cast her as a huge villain, hates her. But she is actually a really kind and good woman to other people. But me, there's just that wound that she cannot.
The mirror. You're her reflector.
And the thing is, it doesn't matter what I did. And again, when you're a kid, you strive then for that. Like the mother wound
Yeah.
is so present in me and my self-worth, and like, you know, it was non-existent. So,
And it
you know,
kind of spills out, doesn't it? It kind of
into every
spills
part
out
of my
into
life.
everything.
Into every part of my life. I had no self-worth. You know, when you read all those like Instagram graphics where it's like the childhood wound, I think I like fall under like 8 out of 9 of them that I had
Yeah.
to, you know, work on throughout my life. I had deep mental illness, you know, in my late teens, 20s, right up until I hit 30 really.
Yeah.
Was when it really started to turn the corner. Like I've been hospitalized for it for, you know, 13 weeks at a time. Like I really did struggle to find any bit of self-love. And like you know, also I didn't have any supports. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't have the support of either of my parents, even my extended family. There were financial supports at times, but nobody in my family could do the emotional connection. You
Yeah.
know, that's where I think I come in as we talk about generational cycles and we could talk about almost curse breakers. And I definitely, you know, fit
You
that
shook it
mold
up.
of, oh, I did. I shook it up. I blew it up. And I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that now. I felt
Yeah.
alienated all through my life as how deeply I would feel things. I thought there was something so wrong with me. And
Yeah.
now I can see it's because I choose to heal at every single step. I
I can totally
choose.
relate because me and my mom, like I was in the middle child syndrome, and my brother and my sister was the eldest. And when me and my sister talk now, our mother piped us against each other. Like, and I don't know whether she did it intentionally or like, but it was a very kind of manipulating where she always got like the pink things and I always got the shitty yellow or green things. And I remember going, why can't I not be the girl? And it set off this, this like hatred for my sister and also for my mom. And now I have my own kids, right? My mom now, in fairness, she's evolved, she's changed, and we have a great relationship at the moment. Still triggers me though. Still time I'm like, oh, I have to leave and just have space because she's fucking triggering my family. And like, oh, sorry, excuse my French.
That's because I'm here. That's because I'm
That's
here. I'm gonna end up cursing.
it. But what happens is that um like she as a granny wanted to buy my kids presents and she goes, okay, I'll do a hierarchy thing, like the eldest will get 75, the middle will get 50, and the youngest will get 25. Well, I
Yeah, I
flipped.
can feel it. You're like, no.
I was like, absolutely not. I said, that has triggered that trauma for me when I was a child because you did that hierarchy all the time. It's not that way. And in her mind, she was like, but it's just because the oldest down to the youngest. It was the way my parents did it. And I was like, there you go. There you go. I said, it's not a way. It's equal all the way. But it's weird, isn't it? Like, it's what they've learned
It
from their
is, and
parents.
it is, and I think my mom really struggled with, like, she does have it. I don't think she'd admit that she's a very difficult relationship with her own mother because she strives to be loved by her so much. But like
Yeah.
she, you know, she really, really does. And like my granny has no time for her, never really has. She wouldn't admit that, and if she ever hears that, granny, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But and I think that's the thing. I got I am the black sheep of my family on my mom's side. It's like nobody speaks to me. You know, especially when I went on my healing journey, it triggered
Oh, I'd
waves
say
back
so.
through the family. And it used to be such a difficult thing, and now it's something I'm grateful for it, but I still have to grieve it as it comes up. And I think that's what I want people to really take from is you don't have to just suddenly be okay with something and you're okay with it forever. Like as you deepen into your awareness and your understanding of what happened to you, you are allowed to have new emotional waves that go along with that. But with my spiritual awakening, because of those early on years, you know, my brother had his high support needs,
That attention's
autism.
already gone off you.
And, you know, like obviously I'm attuned to all the clairs. Like I'm telepathic. When I was younger, he was nonverbal till I was 8. And I thought that the reason I always knew what he wanted was because I was I'm a Virgo. I'm really I just thought it was like a bit of intuition and observing.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've heard of the telepathy tapes. They're amazing. Everyone
Mm,
needs to go and listen to them. But, you know, it was just a telepathic connection between the two of us. It still exists to this day. So I knew what he
beautiful.
needed and I became that second parent because my dad wasn't around.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was parentified very young. And then my mum's mental health got worse as I got I got older. I think she stopped getting out of bed at the weekends when I was about 8. So, you know,
Wow.
I really was this grown up in this little tiny body. You know, my mum really struggles with body dysmorphia. She projected that. You know, my weight became something at the age of 4. Like it's all of that kind of instability in myself.
Yeah.
Then when we, you know, skyrocket up to 2023 and my spiritual awakening's kicking off, my mediumship is opening up. I'm getting downloads and spirit messages. And like I've had them, like I've always had claircognizance pop up and not knowing what it was, where I just suddenly know the answer to something. I just suddenly know a fact and I didn't know why.
Mm.
Like when I was 26, I was in the Dáil campaigning for cervical check. And I remember sitting in front of a health rep in a major party. And she was telling us something and trying to get us, our public group that had sway at the time, to support and back her and our party. And I remember knowing something was wrong. And I remember thinking also I was out of my depth there. Like, what was I doing in that room? And I remember out of nowhere, I asked a very specific question, no idea why. And then her whole kind of house of cards of what she was trying to get us to do just tumbled down. And when we left, our, you know, our kind of activist group was like, why did you even think to ask that? Like, imagine if you hadn't. And I
Mm.
like, that's fair cognizant. That's, you know, that's spirit coming in and being like, here you go, Bessie. You know,
Put them on the pedestal and just like highlight their.
exactly. So I've gone through phases where spirit's been there, didn't know that's what it was. 2023, it really blew up open. You know, I had a reading from somebody who did a coffee reading, and the first thing he did when he sat down was start giving out to me, because I'd been given a tarot deck, I think maybe like 4 months previous, and I stopped. I think I played with it for a couple of weeks. I played with it for a couple of weeks, got paranoid about it, got obsessive, and then let it go. And he sat down in front of me and he ate the head off me. Never met this man before in my life. And he just started eating the head off me. We were at my friend's 30th birthday and she gotten him in to do coffee reads. And he was like, you with all the gifts that you have, all the energy that you can move, and you're just doing nothing with it. And like, you know, all the healing you've done, like, you know, he was just at me. He knew about the tarot deck. I'd had readings before from a medium that I knew, but I did not know that we could do the things that we can do. I didn't know that existed. I didn't know it was real. So what this man was saying to me also sounded like a load of shite.
Mm.
So, but it tipped me into the ADHD rabbit hole of wanting to learn. And because I didn't have the early foundation in myself, because I didn't have the supports, I had just open wounds walking into the spiritual world. I was just,
Like a lamb to the slaughter.
you know,
Sorry.
willingly, like I was chumming my own blood in the water. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it was just, and I think this is why I wanted to do the podcast. Really initially was to, yes, highlight. I would love someday, and I will tell my own story of depression, because I feel like my version of it, I think everyone's version of it can help someone. So I do want to do that someday, but that's not what this is about. This, I think, is about when you're on a spiritual journey. You know, we're moving into, I feel like a lot of people that are listening are getting in touch with their own intuition, getting in touch with their own gifts, curious about it. And I think safeguards have kind of disappeared in the social media aspect and the way that we've
100%.
and I think that's really what I want to tell my version of, because I see it now. Like, I do this full time. You know, I mentor people through their spiritual awakenings. I do readings on either TikTok and I do them privately. But I get people constantly where I can feel this detachment from reality, because the wound is driving the bus. And the foundation in what's real, what's safe, there's a lot of free access to parts of spirituality that I think you're meant to learn as you deepen into consciousness, as you get deeper into your practice. I think you're meant to it's meant to come to you naturally, and now it's just all out there. So people that are, you know, are kind of attaching to parts of it, getting like fearful and scared and, you know, paranoid and or lost in a
You see,
concept.
that again is right when we need guidance, but there's a certain level of responsibility on the person to use discernment and understanding their perception of a spiritual teacher or a healer. You know, not everyone is love and light, and there are people out there that just want your money, you know,
Yeah.
and they don't work from the heart. And I've seen them, you know, and I've literally stepped away, called in like extra layers of protection, said, right, they're not for me, you know, and walked away. I had a girl message me and she said that there was a particular healer who did womb healing and it was a male. And he was suggesting things to a group of ladies. This is in Ireland, okay? And I'm there going, okay, that is not right. And they were like, what do I do, Christine? And because I have a network of shamanic practitioners in Ireland. We come together. We're actually going this weekend down to a retreat, and we're just doing lots of healing and lots of shedding. Because when you're healing, you are protecting yourself to a certain level, but you still need to hollow the bone, as those
Yeah,
shamans say. You hollow the bone, and I have a network, so I had to message the shamans and say, this person is doing really bad work and is literally like running what we're trying to do from the heart space, like yourself. We are working from the heart, through the mud. You know what I mean? Because it's since COVID, spirituality has risen. The popularity has literally off the charts because it has been a collective awakening, and they need guidance from healers. Okay, but there's a certain level of responsibility for the person to use discernment in terms of, do I trust this person? And it's about listening to their own inner guidance. But however, if they're experiencing such an imbalance in their energetic field, that is where it gets a little bit confusing for the person,
exactly.
you know?
And that's kind of where I'm coming at the moment, is because I have a phrase that I say to everybody, like I do 2 lives a week. So I have people that come into the room, and I do the TikTok lives, so there's like an accessible way for people to get reads for me, but because rather than just book in private, because it is hard for people to afford it. Do you know what I mean? But then I also try and use that space to educate and to kind of safeguard and to kind of put energy out there, that people that are in this space that is so chaotic, that there's a grounded healing energy that they can pop into, a bit of sense, a bit of, that earth cord gets kind of strengthened before they go on their way. But what I always say is, the reader that you're in front of, the reader, the healer, the shaman, the witch that you're in front of, can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pop into someone's social media, someone's room that they're working in, and they're really fixated on a particular wound from a particular very narrow view, like, it makes me think of the twin flame phenomenon, that's so popular now at the moment. And I got lost in that. Like, that's part of my spiritual awakening, was getting lost in that. Now, it scalded the absolute soul out of me, and I'm really glad that it happened, because it gave me discernment in energy, identifying energy, that I don't think I'd have if I didn't have that experience. And I think I'm very grateful that my guides used it to my betterment, but it was very unhealthy. And now when I see other readers, that's their whole business model,
Yeah.
is, or healers is their model, is getting people in their woundedness to come in. But it's not that, I don't think it's just that they want those people's money. I honestly think it's that their level of understanding of their own relationship wounds, their own attachment wounds, they haven't just done that healing. So I do actually think that it's their belief that love needs to be triggering, that love needs to be traumatic, that love needs to be performed for, like that kind of four pentacles energy, like where you're just kind of you're seizing it, you know what I mean? Where like it's not in the heart space, it's in the chasing energy. Like, I do think that is a big thing. Like, I'm thinking of a healer that I know. I mean, she's a very unhealed healer, and I think she's a big platform. She has like diehard fans, and one of those fans is someone that I used to also read for and passed away recently, and I would consider that person a friend. And it's been really upsetting, because I know that person was very much lost in a detachment from reality when it comes to spirituality, and I know that healer propelled that person into that attachment more than anything. Like, I know in my bones, and I remember like 8-9 months ago saying to everybody, when this person came around, everybody in the circle, I was like, listen, that person is like, no, like, my spirit guides from the get-go of this person was like, walls down, like, disconnect, don't, like, just again, like you said, those protections come up.
Yeah.
And sometimes your protection, right? Because I think this is also the thing. If you're on a spiritual journey and you're learning, not every time that your heckles raise, and this is to do with you actually, not every time that, yeah, you're, now this is a compliment, right? But let me get to the end of it.
Okay, there's a dig here. Listen,
Yeah, because
listeners.
it's gonna kick off. It's gonna kick off a shade, but it'll be a lesson, right?
I love it. Go for
Right.
it.
not every time that you're because this is a big thing that's going around, especially TikTok at the moment, is your intuition will tell you if someone's for you. If your body is saying no, blah, 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 then that person is bad. There is lots of times that is true when you're connected to your intuition. When you're embodying fear, that's a load of shit. Okay. And I have an experience of that with you.
Sorry.
So, no, it's really good. It's really good. But at the time, so I had said the reason I had wanted to do this podcast was because a year ago I had a download that my throat chakra was going to open and it was going to be about my healing. And I'd had it a year ago. Then I went to your healing circle. And I remember I had my first understanding that I do shamanic journeying. I had never realized that that's what I do. Like I had never understood that that's what happens to me when I go on my travels. And it was amazing. It was on the beach. It was incredible. And then you then had your kind of, I don't want to call it a rebrand because I feel like you stepped into yourself when you changed into embodied wellness. And it was like all of a sudden you'd pop up and I would just get the absolute ick. Like I would just be like, why is this woman all of a sudden, my heckles would be up. I'd have discomfort and I would want to get as far away from me as possible. And I was like, stop it. I have no issue with this woman. I've met her once. Like it just, and I,
But I'm reflecting back something on you. It's not me. It's not intentionally doing it.
Exactly. So that's what I'm coming to. So and then so that went on for a couple of months and I was kind of avoiding your page. And then I had the download that you were to do with this, helping open this. And that's why we recorded the podcast last time. We had the session after, which was amazing, but it didn't open this. And I was so confused. I was so confused.
I knew it. I walked away and said, no, she's not fully.
It didn't open. And I was so confused. But I think it was because I had to open it myself. But it was it started to open at the next healing circle I went to. But so the download was correct on I was outsourcing the how. And rather than my own empowerment, do you know what I mean? But the ick that I was getting, I sat with it for ages and I figured it out before we recorded that. You stepping into your full embodied power. I grew up in a family that if I was seen that I was myself, that I was my whimsical little airy fairy me that I was when I was a kid, I was shunned, I was in trouble, pain was at the end of that.
Yeah.
And then here you were, like fully yourself,
like
going
in your
after
face.
it. Fully with your downloads, like owning your spirituality, owning your power, owning how good you are at what you do. Whereas that's something that I still really struggle. You are very good at what you do. And that's something that I still really struggle with is unless I'm reading, when I'm reading, my true self comes out, like the sass, the fire, like I'm so embodied of my energy. But when I'm doing healing. But the rest of the time,
when you're talking.
There's like there's a real hesitation to own my power because I associate it with rejection.
Yeah.
I associate it with being hurt because a lot of the times, because of all the wounds that I had as a kid, of like not having the supportive people around me, of always striving for attention, of by providing for everybody, being that self-sacrificer, that self-abandonment, I had conditioned myself to think if I give out all this love and I'm so perfect and I do all these things for everyone else and I communicate is if I'm the best communicator then I'm not going to get hurt. I'm not going to get, but I was in a wound where I had such lack. All I was doing was attracting people who couldn't meet me in that space.
Do you know, it's funny because last week, even in the last 3 weeks, actually, I know that I trigger a lot of people. For me, as a people pleaser, over the last 7 years, right, of my healing journey, I've had to sit with that and be okay with that because it's funny because your mindset would be like, but what will I do? How will I make them like me? Or, what can I hide in myself to be accepted? And that's how I lived my life for years, right? But now with the healing and I'm progressed on my healing journey, I'm okay with that. And it really came in the last 4 weeks, actually. And, I'm a sun, moon in Scorpio. So it's like the sun is the fire, what drives you. The moon is your emotions. So when I say I feel deep, I feel deep. And I remember I was talking to another healer, and the healer goes, "You do know what it is actually doesn't matter what you do. It's the medicine is in you." And I remember sitting with that going, the medicine. So if I'm looking from outside in, when I trigger someone, I'm their teacher. So the medicine, in actual fact, I'm their medicine. And if they're so far in their healing journey that they can see that, reflect on it, work through whatever I am reflecting back on them, then I'm already doing what I'm supposed to do without even going into a room to heal.
It's so weird. So I call that the mirror as well. So that is something as a kid, like even as a kid, I was that mirror around people. And I didn't have the armor, the self-regulation, the protection to experience, because that's the thing. I like, you were saying about like cleaning the bone, I think you said it was, but
Hollow the bone.
hollow the bone. Like, last night I had to do an energy clearing, like fully, on a massive journey to just, there was just a lot of work that needed. We don't need to go into it. There was a lot of
Yeah.
cleaning out that needed to be done. I've been sick, but because of I have a public facing role, I have a lot of people that see me, that come in, that I do reads for, and it means I get a lot of projections. And when we talk about projections of energy, when people I think people don't understand necessarily what it means, but it's like, for me, it's when someone a lot of the time gets triggered by the fact that what I've delivered in the message, or what if they didn't want to hear it, if it's asking them to embrace more themselves, step more into themselves, if it's rubbing off the trigger, then it's almost like the negative energy gets directed at me, like in my face. And I think I'm so sensitive to it. I'm so aware of when it happens. And I've really had to learn that I don't need to rush to that person and soothe them. And like in that people pleasing way of like, because they're having that reaction to me, I have to let them learn their lesson. Like I have to not get in the way of their karmic lesson. Like I have to step back and soothe myself. And why do I feel that need to
Yeah. So
go and
that's
do that?
an old attachment wound,
For sure.
because you would get that rejection because someone else is getting triggered by you. So you would attach on them to them for love
Yeah.
and connection. Okay. So that also came up the last 4 weeks with me again, where it was another layer where it was like, yeah, I'm actually so happy and content in my own energy, which, like, I swear to God, like, I spent my whole life, the fear of sitting in stillness, the fear of being alone, the fear of missing out, FOMO. I was at the opening of an envelope like that. I was always out, you know what I mean? External validation outside family home. It was like built into me when I was a kid. It was survival mode. And now I'm like, okay, I triggered that person. We've now, in fairness, we're very good friends, and we had a chat and we sorted it out, right? We really, because we love each other and respect each other. And I kind of walked away and I went, okay, I could have go easily into the old unhealed version of me and attach onto that person, my
Yes.
friend, and go, please be my friend still. And I just said, I'm gonna just detach for a while. They're working on themselves. I'm working on myself. I don't need to dim my light. I just need to stand here holding my light. And I always feel if they're still aligned with me after that, their level of healing, and also my level of healing, like let's call it what it is, then we will align back in and we will be connected. But you see, that's when you know you're sitting in your embodiment, in your power, because you're like, I'm handing it over to the universe. If that person's meant for me, they will come back into my life. But right now, I'm happy and content to give them that space because I need that space too.
I love that. I think it's really interesting that like your timeline of that is very similar to my timeline of what I'm talking. I think that does happen a lot with light workers and energy workers, is that we can sync up almost in our own circumstances of what we're working on. I do
Yeah.
think it's to do with the bigger picture, the bigger working of the collective of the world and the energy. But what I've been finding is when I have those moments and those wounds that come up, and that part of me that could run back to that old behavior, I go right within. I think my clairsentience really kicks off in those moments where I can feel what part of my body where that wound is. And I tune into it and I go and I find the version of me, the 7-year-old me, the 4-year-old me, the 8-year-old me. And I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? I'm like, we're good. Like, and I kind of do some real, sometimes it's not just affirmations or validation. Like I really do believe healing is messy. Like I really do
Oh,
believe
come here.
I am not the love and light healer. Like I get the nickname of the Shadow Queen, with the kind of workings that I do. I think you need to go into the rage, into the grief, and you need to not just love it into healing, but like thrive in it, like let it out. Like, if I'm and I think as well, when you're on your healing journey, you can just have random emotions that'll surge and you don't need to know why. You just need to let your body process them. Like, you could find me in my kitchen, like, throwing a pillow on the ground to get, like, anger out that 4-year-old me was not allowed to have because my brother had high support needs. Like, I think that's such a part of the healing journey that we don't see a lot. I think it's starting to, and I love seeing people show that more. I love people showing their embodiment more. But now when I have that trigger come up, that old behavior that wants to come up, instead of meeting that version, it's kind of what did I need back then to not do the behavior? Like, what did I not get then? And then trying to give it to myself, like, and remembering, like you said, the medicine's in you. The medicine's in
Mhm.
you for other people. The medicine's in you for yourself. I think that's really, I can feel, especially, I think 2025 for a lot of people was a shedding. I feel like a lot of people were, with the year, the wood snake, but I think a lot of people feel like a lot of old wounds came up.
Big
And
time.
this year we've got a lot of people with the astrology, and people are worried about how it's all going to go. And like, it's all activation. You know what I mean? It's all opportunity to meet yourself on a deeper level. It's not here to punish you. It's not here to destroy you. It's here for you to find a deeper level of yourself, a more connected version of yourself, a more empowered version of yourself. But we just need to be really careful that we're grounded as we're going through it, that we're not kind of losing ourselves in these concepts that we're seeing online or between different healers that might have been doing it years, but they mightn't have been doing the inner work themselves for years. So they might have all the knowledge, they might know all the terms, they might look the part.
But sure, look at what is Deepra chakra? What is it? Chakra?
In your man in the Epstein files.
Yeah, I can never
I
say his name.
know.
So I met him in
Oh,
person. He came to Dublin and did a talk, and it was in the Film Institute, and I was there. And it just so happened at the end you could go up and get a photograph of him. I have the photo somewhere. It's in my album. And I stood beside him, and I got this heaviness of him that was not a high vibrate. When you think, oh no, maybe I'm just ignoring it, but it was a heavy, 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 low energy. And I just kind of walked away and was like, oh God, no, and it kind of stuck with me.
yeah.
He was just like, there was just something there. And I remember saying to the friend, going, he's not all the love and light that people see
Yeah.
him to be. His meditations are great, by the way, but as a person. And then it made me think of, we, as we're on our healing journey, when we see people in the spiritual world and they're up there and you have all the followers, we're like, oh my God, this is a new one. This is who we should follow. This is like, and I've actually get really uncomfortable, and I don't mean to, but when people come up to me and go, oh, Christine, I love you and do it. And I get real like, oh, no, like, I'm just being me. You do you. Do you know what I mean? Don't look at me. Do you know what I mean? Because I never want to come from the ego, and I think as a healer, we constantly need to keep our ego in check, because that's what happens. Some spiritual healers will go too far into the ego, and then they have very hard to get back from that ego. And we're going to be wrapping up really, really soon because we're going over time. But the one thing I always say to people is, if you hear a healer say I all the time, I heal, I do this, I do that, I always say, run a friggin' mile, because that's the ego talking. And what I always say is, if you hear a healer going, well, it's whatever happens in the space, I don't heal you, it's actually you heal yourself. However, I am the conduit to open up that space in order for you to heal. And I always say that to everyone. I said, if you're looking for a healer, listen to their wording and feel into their energy. And if you say, no, listen to that inner guidance. Have you got one more guidance off them to top that as well for our listeners today? Not saying mine was any better, but I'm just saying another one.
Is in for like a red flag around healing.
Yeah.
I think anyone who isn't willing to identify their own faults, their own flaws, and take ownership and accountability for their own continuous healing journey. I think anyone that kind of has this idea that they're there, they're solid, they're everything. Because I have a real fundamental belief that it comes from another healer that said the sentence, and it's become just so ingrained in me that our level of consciousness, like our truth is based on our level of consciousness that we have in that moment. And if we're growing, if we're truly healing, that consciousness is forever going to deepen. So our truth is going to continue to change. I think when we get to that finalized, when we see somebody get to that finalized point of like, that they can't look within, that they can't look within, because energy is forever shifting, forever moving, forever
Yeah,
fluctuating.
it's not static.
And I think that's where we see, like you said, that you had that feeling next to Deeper Chopper, I think it is.
Yeah, Chopper. Yeah, I've always gonna say his name.
Where you could feel that heaviness. But that's going to be based on your consciousness, that you've done inner work, that you can go that low down. And I think that's also where we need to start looking for, is making sure that the person that you're allowing into your energy, that you're allowing to help you in that healing space, can actually hold that space, I think is the big one. I think there's times where, yeah, no, I was gonna go longer into that, but I think that is the main point, is just making sure that, I think every time that I meet someone on a healing journey and when I'm reading for them, I tend to have either be walking the path they're walking, or have just walked it, or in the past there's something that I've experienced, something, and that's why Source, the universe, Spirit is bringing them to me, because I can then be that conduit for that loving energy to go to them when they need it, particularly if I couldn't have had it at that time. And I'm always grateful for that. I always think, it's such a nice,
it's a nice way to bring a client to that level, and I likewise the same, like they come in and I'm like, there, I know exactly what you're going through.
It's like you can really, you can really hold that. I think that's why, like, a lot of, for me, I am love and light. I'm a very healthy dose to fuck around and find out. But being comfortable in my shadow, embracing my shadow, dancing with my shadow. I think I call shadow and ego the same thing. For me, being in my shadow, and not necessarily the same thing, but there's a. I just don't think shadow is negative. I don't think shadow is negative at all.
Oh no, I think it's beautiful. I love the shadow because I'm a Scorpio. Yeah.
I think
I love sitting in my shadow.
I think it's such a deep place of healing.
Yeah.
Is your shadow. And I don't think it all needs to be transmuted into light. I think you can hold space for something to stay a shadow, but hopefully one that you eventually love.
Yeah. No, exactly. Thank you so much, Dani.
Thank you.
Thank you for your lovely words of wisdom. And just to let our listeners know where they can find you.
I'm the Wild Alchemist with an underscore at the end of it on Instagram and TikTok. And I have a website, which is the only place you can book. See, I know that you're on Instagram. I'm more on TikTok. On TikTok, there's about 18 people impersonating me. They will message you. They will pretend that they have nuggets of wisdom for you. They do not. They just want your bank details. The only place that you can find me to work with me is my TikTok live or my website.
Okay.
That is it.
Thank you so much. And yeah, we will see you again. Thank you so much,
Dani.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for being part of the healing circle today. If something in this conversation touched you, let it land gently. You don't need to rush to understand it. Your body already knows. Remember, your story matters, and when it's shared in the right space, it has the power to heal, not just you, but others too. If you feel called to explore this work more deeply, you'll find links to my sessions, retreats, and offerings through Embodied Energy Wellness in the show notes. Until we meet again, go gently, stay connected, and trust the wisdom within you. Thank you for being here.